Hello and welcome back to the Soccer Brothers Podcast. This is episode number 46. I'm your host, Salvatore. As always, I'm joined by my brother, Nihal. Before we get into the big interview with Tom Marshall, we have to talk about the amazing soccer-themed clothing brand named Ambitious Strike. If you want to check out Ambitious Strike's merchandise, then go to ambitiousstrike.com. If you want to get a 15% off discount on your entire purchase from the website, enter the code BROTHERS at checkout. All right, without further ado, we present to you Tom Marshall. We'd like to welcome our guest, Tom Marshall, onto the podcast. Tom is an English language journalist and writer for ESPN, where he covers the Mexican national team and Liga MX. He also writes for Goal USA and is a host on the Mexican Soccer Show podcast. How you doing, Tom?
I'm good, thanks. Yeah, thanks very much for the invite to come on.
Thank you for being on, Tom. All right, why don't we get right into it? You were at the Mexican national team training today. What is the morale of this team going into the tournament, and how do they look?
Yeah, I think the morale's really good. I mean, I think the results have been good, and obviously for any team that really helps. I mean, you know, Juan Carlos Osorio's been in charge 6 games. Mexico have won all 6, and they've not even conceded a goal. So yeah, I think confidence is high going into the Copa America. I'd say that, you know, the training session, especially yesterday, was extremely intense. I think the players look up for it. They look like they want to achieve something with this national team, and you know, and today, you know, it's the day before the game, so it's not quite as intense, but, you know, you could see a few things from the training. Looks like Mexico are going to play a 4-3-3 tomorrow against Chile. So yeah, I'd say, in general, you're looking at this Mexican national team right now, and you'd say things are looking really positive.
Yeah, in Juan Carlos Osorio's last 6 games, or his first 6 games under the reins of the Mexican national team, he's won all 6 and hasn't conceded a goal yet. How have his tactics made this team successful?
Yeah, I think that, I mean, obviously, if there's a criticism, well, not a criticism, but if there's a kind of question mark, it's been that the quality of the opposition hasn't been great. Because obviously Mexico played Canada twice, they played a B or C Senegal team, Honduras, El Salvador, and the other one slips my mind, but and Paraguay the other day. So I think there's still a question mark. What's it going to look like when Mexico come up against a Chile or a Uruguay like they will over the next couple of games? But I think what he's done is, I think tactically he's played, you know, out of the 6 games, I think he started with 4 different formations, and I think that Mexico needed a manager like that who's going to shift things up. Who's going to get the players to think for themselves, to depending on what the opposition brings. So yeah, I think that is, and I think the players have taken to him now. I think they like him. I think there was a bit of scepticism when he first came in because he wasn't a massive name, but I think bit by bit he's winning them round. But I think apart from Osorio, it's also the players. I think the players are a very united group, and I think they've been that way now for quite a while, regardless of the manager. So I think there's a hardcore group. You know, we're talking Chicharito, Hector Moreno, Hector Herrera, Layun, who else? Yeah. Chicharito, did I mention that? And it's those guys that are kind of the moral leaders of this team and that really want to achieve something. So I think that they have had a really, really big role as well.
Yeah, and you mentioned that they've played 4 different formations in the 6 matches he's been in charge. They used the 3 center backs in their last friendly against Paraguay, and you were saying they're probably going to play in a 4-3-3 tomorrow. Do you think they'll stick with a consistent formation throughout the tournament, or will he continue to? Do you think Osorio will continue to shift around?
I think there's no doubt. I mean, there was a press conference here today, and Osorio was like, it's very difficult for me to have a fixed starting 11 because I react to kind of it depends on who we're playing. I mean, you know, I think there's no doubt about it. We'll see a different formation depending on the opposition. I think if he was to pick one formation, it'd be the 4-3-3. But it depends on what the opposition doing, whether they play 2 strikers or 1 striker. I think that'll depend on whether he plays 3 centre backs or 2 centre backs. If there's only a lone striker, the opposition, then he'll play 2 centre backs, and if there's obviously 2, then he'll go with the 3. So yeah. But I think the other thing to point out is that, and I think Osorio stressed this as well, is that the tactical formations and the way the teams line up is different, but the idea stays the same. And so the idea, the way that Osorio wants to see the Mexico team play it's not radically different than Miguel Herrera. It's not radically different than, La Volpe. It's to have the ball, to kind of play very vertically, get the ball forward quickly, obviously along the ground, no long balls or anything, but and overload the opposition in terms of throwing people forward. I think it's a really attacking way of looking at the game. It's a risky way as well, and I honestly think that's why this Mexico team under Osorio is going to be one to watch at this Copa America.
And how much of playing three center backs, how much does that have to do with whether Rafa Marquez plays? And do you think he still has something to offer in this tournament? And is he good enough to be in the starting lineup?
It's really difficult with Marquez because if you look at his games with Atlas this past season in Mexico, it's not been good enough. I mean, if you came down from Mars and said, right, pick a Mexico national team based on what all Mexican players have done in 2016, I don't think there's any way you'd pick Rafa Marquez. I mean, he just hasn't done enough for his club. But then you look at how he played against Paraguay in that friendly last Saturday in Atlanta, and he's still got it. He's still got that passing range. I thought he defended well, and yeah, I think the thing with Marquez as well, the way the team wants to play, i.e., passing it out from the back, playing out from the back. There's probably still nobody better than Rafa Marquez. And, he's 37 now, but you never lose that kind of vision and the way of controlling the game from the back. I think the question mark is more defensively. Obviously, if they're going against a team with quick strikers, then Rafa Marquez won't get near him. I think that's the dilemma with Marquez.
Yeah, it's definitely impressive what he's been able to do over the course of his career as his age has increased. But in the Paraguay friendly, you wrote that Jesus Molina was was one of the keys to Mexico keeping a clean sheet. If you think that if Mexico were to play a 5-3-2 like we've seen Osorio play, do you think that he is a possibility next to Guardado, keeping in mind the abilities of Hector Herrera?
I don't think so. No, I think those three could play, because I think if you play like a three-man midfield, I think Mexico would play with just one holding mid. Okay. So I think Molina would be the holding midfielder, and then Guardado and Herrera would be kind of, in front, kind of more attacking, and obviously giving more liberty to join the attack. So, yeah, but I think Molina's a player who is kind of gone under the radar. I think a lot of people wanted to see Jonathan Dos Santos given that place, but Molina's physically bigger. I think he brings something, kind of defending set pieces and stuff like that, and I think that's important for Osorio. I think that he doesn't want to get caught. He doesn't want to play a beautiful game, and then get caught out because the other team's got a lot of tall, physically big players. So I think he wants to kind of counter that as well, and that's why I think, anyway, part of the reason, at least, why Molina's in there.
Yeah, you just mentioned Jonathan Dos Santos being left off the roster, and he's one of a few big names being left off, including Carlos Vela, Giovanni Dos Santos, Marco Fabian, among others. What does that mean for the national team? And, especially with someone like Jonathan Dos Santos, who's been playing consistently for a team like Villarreal, do you think that was the right decision? And how have Mexico fans and the media reacted to that?
Yeah, I think as soon as the news came out, it was a massive deal. I mean, Giovanni is one of the most recognised faces probably in all of Mexico. I mean, he really is. That's how massive Giovanni Dos Santos is. So there was a big reaction, and I think that Vela to a degree as well, and then obviously Jonathan Dos Santos as well. But I think that I don't know. I think there's some obviously question marks about discipline and their attitude more than anything with those players, and I think that Osorio is a bit different in that I think he really focuses on that kind of thing. Giovanni, you could make the argument that because he's in MLS, because he's made that move from Spain to MLS, and the season started later, and I know he started to play well now, but it took him a few games to get going. You could make the argument that there are other players in Mexico that have done more. I'm not saying that I necessarily agree with that, but you could make that argument. You could also make the argument that Vela, he's lacked discipline. I mean, he went to a Chris Brown concert the day before he was supposed to be in the training, and he's not had a good season at Real Sociedad. He's not scored many goals. He's not made many assists. He's supposed to be the main man for Real Sociedad, and he's simply not done it. So you could make the argument from the playing side for those two. But with Jonathan Dos Santos, I struggle to make the argument of why he shouldn't be in on the field. I know he had an injury later in the season. He didn't quite get back his form, but he's playing for a team in Villarreal who they've just got in the Champions League, and he's been a regular starter for that side. So it's difficult to kind of comprehend why Osorio would leave someone like that out.
Yeah, I mean, that was the biggest one for me. Obviously, there was the whole drama of Giovanni Dos Santos turning down the national team call. Do you have any insight on to why he did that? And is it similar to the Carlos Vela situation before the World Cup in 2014?
It does have some similarities in that we don't know. I mean, we don't know, and I mean, I don't know. I just wish that these, they come out and say what it is. I mean, I think it's up to Giovanni to say what his problem is more than the national team. But
yeah.
It's such a to get called up for your national team. It's just such a massive thing, and you're playing this tournament where I think Mexico got a really good chance of going very far. And so I struggle to understand the reasons. I mean, things didn't go very well in the Gold Cup for Giovanni, because after Miguel Herrera punched one of the Mexican TV commentators, Giovanni kind of tweeted his support, and that didn't go down very well at all. So yeah, I mean, I don't know. It's a difficult one.
Yeah, definitely. And going back to Mexico in this tournament, they have 3 goalkeepers that could really start. Guillermo Ochoa, Jesus Corona, and Alfredo Talavera. Ochoa hasn't done much for Malaga, his team, recently, whereas the other 2 have come off pretty good seasons in Mexico. Who do you think gets the nod in the tournament? Ochoa started against Paraguay. Do you think that means anything, or are they all going to get a chance, do you think?
I think because I don't think Osorio's kind of played a full game for Osorio. I think that's why he got the full game against Paraguay.
Okay.
I think more than anything, Osorio just wanted to see him and see him how he react, the relationship between him and the other defenders. Honestly, it's really difficult to kind of to kind of guess which way Osorio's going to go with his goalkeeper. If I was pushed, I'd say just about Talavera would get it still. Mm-hmm. But Ochoa finished the season okay. He had a decent last run of few games with Malaga. But the other thing is, it wouldn't surprise me if it's one goalkeeper for the Uruguay game and then another goalkeeper for the Jamaica game. I mean, I just think Osorio's completely willing to make those changes. I don't think he's scared of. I don't think he's going to say you're the number 1 keeper. Whatever happens, you're going to play. I think he could quite possibly mix it up.
Okay. Who do you think? Which one of those 3 do you think puts Mexico in the best position to win?
I mean, honestly, I'm a big fan of Talavera. I think Talavera's 33 now, so he's going to be he'll be 35 at the next World Cup. And I think when you consider what Ochoa did at the last World Cup, I'd personally go with Ochoa. I think Ochoa he's going to come into the next World Cup absolutely in his prime. He's already, he's got kind of a bit of an aura about him in terms of, the heroics against Brazil and what he achieved, and he made headlines over the world. So I'd go with Ochoa for that kind of psychological factor even.
Yeah, definitely. Andres Guardado has been excellent for the national team lately. What has been the key to his success as of late?
I think it's just a level of maturity. Probably, on and off the field. I mean, he's become a dad in the last couple of years. I think he's found a really great team in PSV that made him a central part of their, whole way of playing. So, and I think he's just revelled in it. He's one of the players who's been given responsibility, and he's not scared, and he actually thrives under it. So, yeah, I think that's the reason for Guardado. He's always been a very, very good player. I mean, he started against for Mexico against Argentina in the 2006 World Cup, so he's got a lot of experience now under his belt. And yeah, Guardado is absolutely in the prime of his career now, and Mexico are reaping the rewards over the last basically since the last World Cup. Guardado's been Mexico's best player.
Yeah, it's interesting that he sort of moved to this more central position later in his career. We didn't really see that early on. He was more of a winger, wasn't he?
No, yeah, definitely. He started out when he was a a flying winger with skills, and kind of he'd beat the fullback and stuff. And obviously now he's very much. I mean, he's still got he's not kind of old or anything. He's still got that drive. But yeah, I think his best position right now is kind of if you've got a midfield three with two more attacking players. I think it's on the left of that kind of triangle. But he can also play that holding role. So yeah, I think eventually he'll play the holding role. I think in a couple of years' time, that's where we're going to see Guardado end his career.
Okay, so with the Copa America coming up, what is a realistic goal for Mexico, and what are the expectations for them in the country?
Yeah, I think a realistic goal is to win it. I mean, I don't see. I think Argentina you'd put as favourite. I think most people would agree that they've just got that extra bit of quality, and especially if Messi's hits any form, then it's difficult to stop on his day, like everybody knows. But then after that, you look at Brazil without Neymar. You look at Uruguay, who I think are going to, if they get Suarez back anytime soon, they're going to be extremely strong. You look at Chile, who have kind of dipped a little bit since Pizzi took over. Mm-hmm. Even teams like Ecuador, the States. There's a lot of teams that will think they've got a decent chance, and I'd put Mexico right up there. I think you've got like I said, Argentina up there, and then you've got the next group, which I'd say Chile, Brazil, and why not Mexico? Mm-hmm. Mexico and Uruguay. Those four kind of, I'd put Mexico in the top five for favourites for winning the tournament. At the end of the day, Mexico played on Saturday in front of 63,000 in Atlanta with a weakened squad in a friendly, and then tomorrow in San Diego on Wednesday it's going to be almost 70,000, and all the way through this tournament we're going to see Mexico sell out stadium and sell out huge American football stadium, and Mexico's the home team, so that has to give an extra couple of kind of percentage points to the idea that Mexico can win this.
Yeah, who do you think can be a breakout player for Mexico and can really cement themselves as a player who's going to be key to the World Cup qualifiers and the World Cup in this cycle?
Yeah, I mean, I think a lot of Mexico's best younger players have missed out on this squad because a lot of them are going to be at the Olympics. But we've got Tecatito Corona, who's eligible for the Olympics, and we've got Irving Lozano. Mm-hmm. Lozano's already played a few games for the national team, but he's one of the most talented young players in Mexico. He's only 20 years old. He's just won the league title with Pachuca, so I expect him to be full of confidence, and he's a player who could do something really special. And I think most people know about Tecatito Corona. Mm-hmm. I mean, he's got all the potential to be Mexico's next star in terms of his trick. He does tricks. He scores goals. He's exciting to watch, and he's the type of player that you actually you wanna see play. You want to pay money for your ticket to go and see someone like Tecatito.
So what is the key for Mexico's success in this tournament, for a deep run in this tournament?
I think firstly, I mean, it'd be good to avoid Argentina in the quarterfinal because if you look at the group that Mexico will go through to play if they do qualify from the group, it's basically, it looks like being Argentina or Chile, and you think against Chile, I think you'd fancy Mexico. You think they've got a very good chance of getting through. No, nothing against. Obviously, Chile are also a strong side. Yeah. But then if you look at the quarterfinals against Argentina, then you start to think, right, you wouldn't put Mexico favourites for that game. So if they can avoid that, and then all of a sudden they get to the semi-finals, then there's no reason why Mexico can't defeat any other side in this tournament on the day, obviously. But I do think avoid Argentina in the quarterfinals, and then from there, and obviously I think maintaining the team spirit, making sure there's no scandals, because scandals and stuff like that just seem to follow Mexico around sometimes. So keeping feet on the ground, and obviously listening to what Osorio was saying in terms of tactics and how to go about defeating other teams.
When looking at this team, do you see a weakness, a blatant weakness that maybe other teams can exploit, or do you think Osorio has everything locked up pretty much?
No, I think like I mentioned before, I think we've not seen this team go up against a side that's going to kind of take the game to Mexico, if you know what I mean.
Yeah.
I mean, I think all the games under Osorio, the other team have been quite defensive. So we've not seen a team really have a go and really attack Mexico. So that's going to be a big question mark. And I think we'll see that against Chile on Wednesday. So yeah, I'd say that. I think defensively, obviously, Rafa Marquez, other teams I think are going to look to expose him. And obviously, the Mexico system is risky, so you've got the fullbacks pushing really high up. If another team wants to take a risk and kind of also push the wingers really high up, then they might well be able to get in behind there. So yeah, well, those are the kind of the weaknesses. Maybe through the centre as well. I mean, Mexico's game is very much going to be get the ball wide and go down the wings. So maybe down the centre they might be exposed on the transition and the when they do lose the ball.
Yeah, we'll definitely learn something new about Mexico through the Chile game. Mexico opens up their Copa America campaign on Sunday, June 5th, with Uruguay as their opposition. Obviously, the big question mark right now for Uruguay is Suarez. Do you think that Mexico's game plan under Osorio will change if Suarez is healthy or not ahead of the match?
No, I don't think so. I think that obviously, unless Uruguay show anything in the next few days about whether that's going to affect their lineup and their formation. If it doesn't affect their formation, then I think it's going to be a 4-4-2. And I think Rigo Roland, who plays in, if I'm not mistaken, he's playing in Bordeaux at the minute. So yeah, I think that if they play the same formation, then I think Mexico are going to play three at the back against Uruguay. I think that's going to be what Osorio does. But obviously, not having somebody like Suarez who can absolutely do so much damage if you give him just a split second to work in, it's got to be positive for Mexico. I'm personally disappointed because I think Mexico need these big tests because at the end of the day, the greater goal has to be to do something really good at the World Cup. Mm-hmm. So I'm personally disappointed that Mexico probably, you never rule anything out with Suarez, but he'll probably not be facing Suarez.
Right. All right, so if we could ask you, what is your prediction for Mexico in this tournament? Where do you see them? How do you see them faring? Where do you see them finishing?
I'm going to say it's a difficult one.
Yeah.
I'm going to say it's a difficult one just because if they play Argentina in the quarters, you'd have to say the quarters. I mean, I couldn't pick Mexico to defeat Argentina, if you know what I mean.
Right.
But yeah, I'd say let's go semi-final. And I don't know though. I mean, the final is. I can see Mexico reaching the final. I mean, I don't see any reason why not. At the end of the day, this tournament as well. There's only you get out the group stage, which you expect Mexico to do, and then there's only 3 games to become champion.
Right.
And there's no extra time either. So if you level after 90 minutes, it's straight to penalties.
Right.
I mean, that's so. Yeah, all right. I'll say the final then. I'll say the final for Mexico.
Okay, so the final, unless they play Argentina in the quarters.
Yeah.
Okay. If we could switch to the U.S. national team quickly, how have Edgar Castillo and Michael Orozco played this season? Those are the 2 players from Liga MX on the U.S. squad. And do you think their inclusions are justified?
I think Edgar Castillo has had a good season,
right.
But in the Liga MX final against Pachuca, he was actually at fault defensively for the winning goal
right.
in the last minute. Right. So that kind of ruined his season. But aside from that, he's won 2 Liga MX titles. He's playing for one of Mexico's biggest clubs in Monterrey. So he's a very good player, Castillo. He's just, I don't know. I mean, the question is then, is he what the US want from a left back? And I think that depends on how you want to play as well. So yeah, and then with Orozco, he's had a really bad season. I mean, he's not been playing at Tijuana. Miguel Herrera just hasn't taken to him. He just not wanted to include him. Sometimes even in the squad. I mean, he's missed the squad on some occasions. So it is difficult to see why Orozco's in on the basis of what he's done this season. Although, I don't know, I thought it was unlucky not to be included because Tijuana weren't exactly playing very well. But I think the other ones that I was surprised about was Omar Gonzalez, who's just won the league title. You know, he's had a great season. I spoke to him a couple of weeks ago. He seemed really happy. He seemed like he was pretty excited about, you know, joining up with the US squad. And then William Yarbrough. I mean, you know, Klinsmann brought Yarbrough in to have a look at him to see how he was doing. And Yarbrough's had a great season. He's absolutely back to his best. And obviously with more experience now under his belt. So for him now not to be in that US squad where he was when he wasn't playing so well, it's a difficult one to understand.
Yeah, Yarbrough has played really well. It's interesting because Klinsmann chose Ethan Horvath, who's the young keeper who's playing in Norway, over Yarbrough. But the other one that, you know, I was disappointed not to see get called up before this, it was obviously a long shot to get called up for the tournament. He wasn't even on the 40-man roster, was Jorge Villafana. How has he adjusted to Liga MX, and how has he played so far?
Yeah, he's had a really good season. You know, he's kept one of Mexico's best left backs, Adrian Aldrete, on the bench at Santos Laguna, which was a surprise. I mean, I'll be honest, it was a real surprise that Villafana got the start for Santos, and he's kept it. You know, I think he's had a really solid first season in Mexico. He's shown a lot of fight. I think he's quite a defensive-minded fullback. So again, it depends what you're looking at from your fullbacks, obviously. But yeah, he's had a really, really good season.
Okay, final question. You know, Liga MX, the teams have made some huge signings, especially Andre Pierre Gignac is probably the biggest signing. What have these signings done for the perception of the league abroad, and do these types of signings help the national team? And why don't you talk about also with that, I know this is multiple questions, the new foreign national rule for Liga MX?
Yeah, I mean, I think, you know, Gignac has said a lot of positive things about Mexico. Obviously, it's got to be, you know, it's got to be good. And obviously, he's a France international. And then, you know, you look at Tigres, and there's a couple of players now in the Argentina squad for the Copa. Obviously, massive as well. And then Colombia, you've got a few starting players for the Colombian national team. So, you know, I'd say all that's great. I'd say the Alan Pulido, the kidnapping story,
right,
you know, sets Mexico back a long way. I mean, no player in the right mind will for example, from Europe or from the States, they'll definitely think twice about going to Mexico after hearing about the Pulido case. Mm-hmm. I mean, you know, the fact that he was in the state, Tamaulipas, that, you know, has suffered horrendously from narco violence recently. I mean, that it won't be put in that context, and, you know, it's difficult to blame him either. So I'd say, yeah, really great that Gignac's there and stuff, but I think that it's by far outweighed. I mean, yeah, it's pretty sad by what's happened with Pulido. And yeah, with the youngsters rule, I don't know. I mean, it's a difficult one. I mean, so out of the 18-player squad, they're going to have 8 players who are born in Mexico. So they're actually distinguishing between people who were born in Mexico and those who became Mexican citizens afterwards. Which to me, I just don't like that on a kind of moral basis. I think that if you're a citizen of a place, you should have equal access to work.
Hello and welcome back. I hope you enjoyed our interview with Tom Marshall. We will leave a link to his social media and a link to his ESPN FC blog in the description. Make sure to go check it out. I also do want to apologize for the ending there. Part of the interview did get cut off. We had some technical difficulties. Tom goes on to talk about the 10-8 rule, the new 10-8 rule in Liga MX. If you want to get more information on that, I will also leave a link to his story specifically on that, so you can go there and see his analysis. We once again want to thank him for being on the podcast. He had a lot of great insight. He's an expert on the Mexican national team, on Liga MX, and he provided a lot of information that we couldn't have otherwise.
Yeah. And also, I just wanted to apologize. I was a little bit sick during the recording of this interview. I just sounded a little bit off, and I made some mistakes. But it's really more important about what Tom Marshall had to say and his insight, which I thought was really good.
Yeah. So just keep that in mind. Sahil was feeling a little bit under the weather. But, overall, I thought, you did still a good job. we tend to be a little bit hard on ourselves. That being said, why don't we talk about the Mexican national team? What are your expectations personally for this team in the tournament?
Well, I think Tom brought up a great point when we can't really make a lot of generalizations about the team through these 6 matches where they haven't played much competitive competition. But, tonight we're going to see the Chile game, and that's going to tell us a lot. I don't know if the listeners are going to hear this before, that game happens. But overall, I do think that Mexico are maybe in the top 5 most talented teams there is. It's a matter of, can they find an identity? Can they find a formation that really works? And can every player know their role, I think. Yeah, and for me, it's how they respond without the likes of Giovanni Dos Santos,
Carlos Vela, Jonathan Dos Santos, more importantly, and how they play in these matches. Not a super difficult group for them. They do have Uruguay, but they also have Jamaica and Venezuela. Jamaica's a decent team. They have stars like Wes Morgan. Venezuela, not so great. So they really should be getting out of this group, and I think they're going to top the group. I think they're going to top the group and actually advance to the finals. And it would be amazing if we could see a USA-Mexico final in the Copa America. Don't know if that's going to happen. I think Argentina-Mexico will be the final, and I think Argentina comes out on top there, though.
You don't think that Mexico can you don't think that Uruguay is going to win the group?
I don't think so. Well, I mean, what has Uruguay done that would make you think that? Especially with Luis Suarez injured, this is a team that did make it out of the group in the World Cup, but they finished below Costa Rica. So they didn't have a great World Cup, and especially if Luis Suarez is not there, I don't really expect them to beat Mexico. I think maybe they get a draw against Mexico. I think Mexico should be the favorite in that match, to be honest. Mexico is a very, very talented team. They're an organized team. They know what they're doing. They, as Tom said, they're buying into what Osorio has to say. And, I truly believe that this is a top 10 or 12 team in the world right now. And Mexico has to really seize this opportunity with the players they have and do well. Since the 2012 Olympics, they won a Gold Cup, but you'd have to say that World Cup maybe was a little bit disappointing, according to Mexico fans, although there was the whole no era penal.
I don't think it was disappointing.
I think it was. I don't think the round of 16 is acceptable.
I think they played the best out of any team in that group, including Brazil. They had a lot of calls against them besides just the no era penal.
Yeah, I agree. But I'm talking about purely based on how far they got into the tournament. I think quarterfinals was the goal.
Yeah. So, but I don't think you can say that they should be ashamed of the performance of the World Cup.
When did I say that?
You just said it's been disappointing.
I think it is disappointing.
It is disappointing.
They did not play well since the 2012 Olympics. They did not play well in 2013 in qualifying. They had to go into the playoff.
Okay.
They had a good World Cup.
I can agree with that.
They had a good World Cup, maybe. They didn't have a very good Gold Cup. Fortunately for them, the U.S. sucked. They got help from the referee against Panama. Their coach punched someone, and then he got fired. Now here we are. So, I mean, it's a big summer for Mexico. They're probably going to be going for another gold medal in Rio. They're going to be going for the title in the Copa America. I think for them, the absolute minimum has to be the semifinal. As Tom said, it's understandable if they finish second in the group and have to play Argentina in the quarterfinals, then maybe they get a pass. But, I'm expecting big things from this team. I think Andres Guardado is a good shout for the Golden Ball of this tournament, the Golden Ball winner. I think he can be the best player in the tournament.
That's definitely possible. Yeah. Well, sorry, can we go back to what we were talking about before?
Yeah.
So, I mean, I know that Mexico was disappointing in the qualifying for the 2014 World Cup, and they had to play the Interconfederation playoff.
Yeah.
But did you actually think that was going to affect how they played when it came to the World Cup?
No,
Mexico was always good at the World Cup.
No, absolutely not.
Always.
But my point was, after the 2012 Olympics, the fans, the media, and even U.S. fans thought that this team... remember we were talking about how big the gap is between the USA and Mexico. How do we close it? Mm-hmm. I mean, the gap is really not that big. And we've sort of figured that out over the past 4 years, and we've time and time again, we see their success in youth tournaments has not translated to the senior level. And that's what's been disappointing. This could be a different tournament. They have players like Irving Lozano, Jürgen Damm, these guys who are exciting players, and the likes of Carlos Vela and Giovanni Dos Santos, some of the old guard, won't be in the tournament anymore. I don't want to call them old because they're not. They're still young players, and they probably will be at the 2018 World Cup. But my point is, the expectations for this Mexico team were much higher going into 2013. Maybe not going into 2014 because of the failure in World Cup qualification, but I still think Mexico fans had to be disappointed with that. That's my point.
Yeah, I can agree with that. All right, that concludes this episode of the Soccer Brothers Podcast. We hope you enjoyed episode number 46. But before we go, let's talk about the amazing soccer-themed clothing brand named Ambitious Strike.
Yeah, Ambitious Strike is a wonderful company. You can check out their website. That's ambitiousstrike.com. Make sure to use the code BROTHERS at checkout for a 15% off discount. The link to the website will be in the description, along with all the information about Tom Marshall.
Yes, we'll see you guys on episode 47 where we preview the Copa America. See you then.